Hello and welcome to this week's YouTube video. Every 4 weeks I do a Procreate video where I try and transfer my fine art painting skills to Procreate. This week I thought I'd show you how I painted this horse. The important thing about this painting is capturing the horse's expression. It looks very contented, as if it's catching the rays of sunshine. Let's look at the reference photo I used. I have an issue with this photo. Very ugly negative space. This has to be disguised in some way. Look at what happens if I adjust the value of the background. Notice how that space begins to disappear. This is what we must do to our painting. Notice also that the temperature of the horse is a warm neutral. Look at what happens if I match the same warm temperature in my horse to my background. The horse disappears. So if we are darkening our values, we also need to make sure that we have a cooler temperature around the horse. Notice in my painting, I have a combination of values in that background and temperatures also. You just need to be mindful of these things before you start and figure out what you are going to do to that background to get rid of that ugly negative space. Let's now have a look at the brushes I used. These were the wet acrylic, the turpentine brush, the carbon stick, the stucco and the jagged brush. Notice that the brushes I am using all make different marks. That is very important. You can load up your photo onto your canvas by selecting the spanner canvas reference and then import your image. This then gives you an ability to use your colour picker to help you select the colour. Bear in mind though that your wet brushes, the turpentine and wet acrylic, do not lay colours true, so you may need to account for this by choosing a darker and more saturated colour. You will need to do this by eye. Lay the stroke, check it by eye against your reference photo, and if it's wrong, darken it and go more saturated. A good way to do this is to have both your reference photo and your artwork the same size on your screen. You will then be able to compare more easily. Looking at the layers panel, I've done this painting on 3 layers, a background, then a bit of a block in, this is where I'm working out my temperatures and my values, and finally the detail of my horse. For your drawing, put your reference photo on your top layer, start a new layer and draw around the main details. You will be able to use this as a drawing guide throughout the painting, and it will allow you to be more expressive with your strokes without worrying if your drawing is going awry. If you want to practice your drawing, you can do this first freehand and then use this method to check how far out you are. Let's now have a look at the video. The background and the blocking are the most important part of this painting. I am selecting a variety of oranges by eye of similar value but different temperatures and just making large strokes. I am doing this with the wet acrylic and turpentine brush. I am being very random, just like this. I then start to block in the horse with my turpentine brush on about 80% opacity in a darker warm orange, again selected by eye. I begin to cut out with brushwork around the horse very loosely in a cooler light turquoise. I also put some mid-value turquoise against my orange in a broken colour effect, just to give it a bit of interest. Notice how my warms are beginning to pop against my cools. I start a new layer because I don't want my wet brushes picking up too much of that orange in the block-in. I begin to block in my horse using the wet acrylic on about 80% opacity. Notice how large and loose my strokes are at this stage. You don't want detail. You need to start broad and refine as you go along. I'm using the pressure sensitivity of my pencil to really control the opacity of the strokes I lay. It's very important you lay with intention. Less is more. Lay a stroke, check you like it and it works, then lay another. This part of the painting is done very quickly with minimal amount of brushwork. If you are new to this style of painting, concentrate on the minimal brushwork, and as you practice you will get quicker. At this point I have the bases of my horse, my negative space is looking okay, my temperatures are looking okay. I start a new layer and begin to refine. I start to work in the detail using the wet acrylic and turpentine brush. Notice my strokes are still pretty loose. It's important to work with the structure of the face in the reference photo, laying the strokes to match the horse's form. See how my strokes are long and blocky in a simplified form of what you are seeing in the reference photo. I'm building the structure and the little details will come last. There is a lot of laying, destroying and then relaying. Where I feel my strokes are too harsh and I want a bit of softness, I use my charcoal stick. Where I want a bit more definite textured structure, I use my stucco. Where I want to break edges in my brushwork, I use my turpentine. Where I want to lay lots of even, transparent strokes, I use my wet acrylic. And where I want to use a lot of concentrated, thick, heavy strokes, like in the really light areas of the face, I use my jagged brush. Understanding how your brushes work and the marks they make is really important. You will only learn this by practicing with them and trying things out that may or may not work. I am switching between my brushes constantly, adjusting their size and opacity and concentrating on building the structure of that face. All my brushwork is straight and linear, nothing curved. Even my nose, eyes and mouth are made of small linear lines. This is really important. Draw your curves more like this and not like this. Imagine you are working with a piece of chalk and you are using it horizontally to make marks. This is how you should attack a horse's face. It is much quicker to work in this way and looks much more effective. You can take the detail as far as you want to go. I like a loose unfinished feel to my work with soft and lost edges. I think it helps give the painting movement and expressiveness. Notice I have been quite selective about where I have put my harder edges, underdeveloping the mane, this part of the neck and this part of the body. If you prefer a more rendered and developed finish, that is okay too. It is personal choice. Just keep going with it and adding and refining until you feel you are done. It's finished when the artist decides it's finished. You can see at the end of the painting I am not sure if I need to lighten my area around the horse's silhouette, so I try lighter brushwork on a new layer. I quickly decide it's not working, so just delete the layer. So much of this style of painting is just trying stuff, seeing how it looks, keeping it if you like it, and deleting it if it's not working. You need to be experimental. To recap then, use a selection of brushes that make different marks. Use a drawing guide to help keep your drawing correct. Understand the limitations of the colour picker and be prepared to work from eye. Block in your main values and temperatures first. Do not overpaint your artwork in the blocking stage. Use as few brush strokes as you can. Add your detail on subsequent layers. Add as much as you personally like, but remember, unfinished areas and lost edges will give you a much more painterly feel. Be prepared to experiment. This is how you will improve, by doing things wrong and learning how to correct your mistakes. I hope you have enjoyed today's video and found it useful. Please like and subscribe if you can, and check out my website sarahhallidayart.com, where you will find examples of my work and also details of online classes that I run. Thank you for watching and see you for the next one.